Alors, bonjour, good morning, bienvenue sur Jasseri. C'est le jour de vérité. It's good to be back this morning. Hey, this morning, je t'ai dit que c'est le jour de la vérité. C'est ça. So, this morning, please ignore the noise in the background. So, this morning, I'm taking you through a very important issue I'd like us to tackle. It needs all our attention, but before it comes back to affect us and the nation. But before that, I can introduce my ladies, and I have a question for them. Hi, ladies.
Question and answer.
No wonder I was unsuccessful getting this French, because
No, don't distract me, Joe. Now, what's your favorite academic memory? University or high school, aka secondary school? Tolu. That laughter is pregnant.
I don't want to go down this memory lane.
Tolu is
Did she go? Please don't let me go there.
We need Diola to take her.
All our academic, all the favorite things are non-academic.
I think for Tolu, no.
It's not even bad. Can I give you a small gist?
Should I guess? Yeah. High school.
One, I'm like 0.0000001 something % away from first class. But two, okay, my parents are not watching. My name entered police report, so.
Where? No, where?
University.
No.
Did I say that?
Yeah, I said I don't want to go there.
Did I
Please don't make me go there.
Police report.
If you are first set born university, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to go there.
No, you have to go there.
So you lived my life.
I lived the life.
Okay.
The life I should have lived. That unbelieving life.
So which one did you now live?
The believer's life.
I left it. I led a triangular life. Fellowship, school, home.
No, which one? Was it in secondary school or in uni that you led the triangular life?
University. University. I led a triangular life.
But what about secondary?
Secondary school, I was just getting to know myself. I had a lot of self-esteem issues, so I couldn't really say that. I had more unfavorable memories than favorable ones. But the only one I know, I got a lot of laurels in my school for impromptu speeches.
Yes, we had. Apart from that, she's still impromptuing the speeches. Guys, you should know what happens behind the scenes.
I had never done impromptu speech when I was in school. I didn't even do debating. I did more impromptu speeches, and I always won.
Because we see that here, behind the scenes of Jasseri here. Oh, Lolo, that's the queen.
To society.
That's the song.
Blessings, why are you sitting
quietly?
Because I'm trying not to talk about my...
Like you have any.
So it's like this favorite is not the word we should have put here.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give the detail, but it involved the police. Something happened that, because my life was more or less triangular as well, but that particular day, because of me, the entire service in church did not hold. We were all at the police station.
Wow.
That's all I'm going to say.
Me, I entered police report.
This was where high school, university.
Please, can I borrow your police?
It's not easy to be a fine girl, is it?
No.
It's not. But it's more about not just fine, stubborn girl.
Okay, my own is fine.
We don't have.
We can't go.
We all started from the gutter. I remember my police story.
I don't have police
story. As I was with the police that day in secondary school. We jammed.
I told you I don't want to go there.
I don't want to let me go
there.
I really don't have a.
I was such a good girl.
No. So high school was good for me. I was doing a lot in high school. I played volleyball. I was in mock trial. I did the mock United Nations.
And you wonder why
I was vice president of my friend.
You wondered why
helping hands. What else did I do? I traveled.
Imagine.
Wow.
I enjoyed high school. They brought me to Nigeria. I don't want to go there. There was a reason why.
Tolu by now will probably be a flower child in the wind.
I know.
These journalists that we have would have been missing in action.
It's Nigeria that made me this journalist. So on one thing I can thank Nigeria for. Yeah, I can
seriously. So everything came together here.
Yeah, for you. No lie.
You haven't
Daddy,
yours, though.
Bishop.
And last one.
I will not lie. I know how impactful the prayers of my mother and my father are. There are situations where it's like I hear my mom's voice. I'm like, ooh. Let me give you one gist. I want somewhere I was not supposed to go. There was an accident. Me and my friend both got injured, right? This is university. But somehow, a Baptist. Before I went back home the following 2 weekends, I called my parents. I said, I remember in Ibadan, there was one accident. So my father was just waiting for me as I entered house like this. I don't want to go there. Please don't make me go there.
Oh my Yoshi, baby. Honestly.
I had fun. I was afraid sometimes, and I made sure 200 level I entered hostel by 8 p.m. No,
Honestly, I can't even lie. When I look at my life now, I think that's why I'm living my life a little backward. Because there were so many things I didn't have the courage to do. I wanted to jump at that time. I wanted to jump fence. I wanted to go. I didn't even go to club until Cool FM.
Yeah. The ones who took you to club first.
Yeah. I did it, but I prayed to her like Jesus was close. And what will happen there? No. I was too.
So I had three older sisters. We're only two now. I had three older sisters, and my first drink, if you can translate drink, since we're on Money Radio, was with my sisters. So it went straight to my head.
Oh.
So we come home.
Did you just gulp it?
I didn't gulp it, but I appreciate them that I was able to do so many things safely with them.
Safely.
So we get home and there's all the center tables. Do you know I end up on the center table? I'm singing and dancing. My father opens the door. Kilo Shele, what's wrong with her? He just jacked me down. Like, no, this is what she's fine. I'm still there singing. And I also said, you guys go out, but Sunday morning when I looked up from the pulpit, I want to sing 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, I don't want to go. There was one summer, me and my sisters, we did not spend a Saturday at home. Not once. It's not I live.
Listen, it seems like when the rooster, when they left the nest, they're now ready to take on the world. Anything that comes and
Preacher's child, PK.
And I think there's a lot of pressure.
Apostles' kids have more preachers. Preacher kids have challenges. I was even a preacher kid. I just have no esteem.
So I believe that there are two extremes and three of us. The ones who listen to their parents, triangular. The ones like me that want to listen. And then the ones who are
I think my other sister was the rebellious one. She was the one that would stand against my dad, and my dad would refuse to pay her school fees. I wish I had such moments of great rebellion. By now, I will have blessing stories to tell. How rebellious I was.
This one looks like a
I never really.
It's now I want to be rebellious. I must wear bikini at the
one
beach.
episode it wasn't intentional. It was just
I wore
me
my first
standing up for
bikini 5
myself.
years ago.
So I didn't really have I
The
wasn't into
wildlife. We are together on that.
Don't hold that hand. It's a setup. It's a setup. It's a setup. Whatever
Why
you
did
say.
people say great academic? See, none of us talked about our school progress. Though academically I was good. It wasn't like I was.
That was great academically. Yeah.
I was great academically.
Why are you not talking?
No, I mean,
Did you fail?
no.
Did you attend?
Yeah.
So do we need to go and call doctor?
Come on, doctor.
Change. Do we need to go and call daddy?
Doctor had no, you know how doctor is so sweet. He had no idea. No, when you're the only girl, you're just cocooned in. They don't see anything wrong that you do. So you just hide under that radar.
I realized when I was in primary school that I was a lover girl. And how I knew
In
was,
primary.
Primary.
They told you before on social media, put it back. I didn't say anyone that blesses you. Don't spoil.
I just remember this story. So how I knew was from I think I was literally leading the class like all through 1, 2, 3. But from 3, 4, 5, there was this particular boy. And I think his name was Danladi. No, not letters. Like we were both like competing intellectually, right? So and then when you come first, so first, second, third, they announce it on the assembly. So when there are 2 first positions, there's no second, there's just third.
Yeah.
So from primary 3, both of us started, taking first. So it was romantic, just go together, look at each other, like, next term you won't beat me.
Yeah.
And then you will go home, you won't be able to eat because they just imagining.
Are you kidding?
And then sometimes I want to answer that question, and I see that I want to answer, like, it just.
I keep hearing, right now she's in primary 5, I keep hearing about 1, 2 boys. I'm like, what's this? What's going on? I don't want to hear this.
Even
I don't want to hear it.
She's eating though.
Even my university.
No. It's not because the boy will not eat.
Crushes are nice.
Write-
And I had
write
a crush
letters.
on
I was the
Corey.
love letter writer.
I just used
I
to
remember
laugh.
that one. I remember.
She was like, I still joked to Corey. I spoke to Corey the day before, like, I said, you know I had a crush on you. She said, yes, I knew. That's why I stepped back a little, because I didn't want her to go all out. Every time I assist Corey, you see two lights.
Like
But
two
with her eyes,
like
she
cartoons.
put that lip gloss like 65 times. And I don't kill
So
me.
I had a crush on, there's this commissioner that was behind my house, his son, his name is Akin. I had a crush on him for like 10 years, and the boy was my brother's friend. My brother would collect money from me just so he could invite him to our house. Because of that boy, I worked too hard. Like, I'll fetch water 10 times. My mom would say, it's okay, but as long as it's outside, sitting upstairs, fetching water. Anyways, we so deviated.
I'm telling you, see where we went.
All right, we'll go on a short break now, but right after the break, we'll be getting into the issues and the concerns that have sprung up after the latest UTME results. So stay tuned. Jessie will be back.
Wow. If you guys see the things that happen behind the scenes, you would fall much more in love with us than you already are. But welcome back. We're streaming live on our social media platforms. We're at News Central TV. Please use the hashtag Jasiri to be part of the conversations. Now, turning to the topic at hand, the recent Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME results have raised significant concerns across the country. Now, reports indicate that a large number of students performed poorly. I'm not helping. With 76% of the candidates scoring below 200. Now, this has sparked debate on the root causes of this decline in academic performance. Factors such as excessive use of smartphones, engagement in social media platforms like TikTok, and even attending parties have been cited as potential contributors to students' academic struggles. But really, is that the case? Joining us is an educationist who brings a wealth of experience as an education quality expert. She's also the CEO of Supreme Education Foundation School. Please welcome Olubukola Ola Adewuyi. Welcome to Jasiri. And behind the scenes, she's got the taste of Jasiri. Okay, let's just start with the foundation to this conversation, because I think when everybody saw the results, even though JAM has released additional results, it was just like, what are we looking at? So what were your initial thoughts when you saw the results that came in from the UTME exercise last week?
I think being in the private sector, my first fear was the students' results.
Specific to you, yeah.
Yeah, specific to me. And then I wish that we were able to demarcate and see the difference between the public schools and the private schools, because we put in so much into it. It also brings into cognizance the divide here, the digital divide. Were these students really prepared? Were they using the computers for the first time?
Yeah,
We've heard so much about this TikTok, it's social media. Were they also motivated? I gave someone an example. I said, if these students were told, if your JAM scores are from 250, 300 above, from 300 you'll be attending universities in the UK. From 280, with jackpot going on, from 280 you will be going to universities in Canada. Do you think we will have the same result? Will they put in their all? Will they be really motivated? Will they, because Nigerians are quite resilient, will they, all the issues that, because there are so many factors to it, we must say, but are they motivated? I mean, we probably, even in the private sector, we have an issue. We feel like we're preparing students for Canada, for the United Kingdom, for the States. Are we preparing students for Nigeria? Is there any hope for them in Nigeria? So I think these are the things that we really need to unpack.
You know, I like the fact that you said that cannot be the only reason. So what would we say that, you talked about motivation. This motivation, where would these students be getting it from? Because whether they're in public school or private school, they are attending school. Yeah. Are they getting this motivation from their teachers? Are they because even for JAM, there's special tutelage for it. Even some schools charge for it. So where would this motivation be coming from? Is it from their parents? Is it from, because I have met students that would even tell you that the state of the nation affects them. So now that there is no light, some of them might have motivation to read, but there's no light in their house. And they can't keep their generator on all night. And like in a house like mine, you cannot use candles. or something. And now, where would this motivation come really for these children?
And that is why we need to unpack the system very well. Funding issues. Number one, even if they are motivated, you talked about light. How about data? They need, because they are objective questions. They are online questions that they could rehearse and practice over time. But they don't even have access to data. They can't even afford it. When we talk about they're using it for TikTok, if they could afford data, I mean, there's been arguments about they could afford data for, but is it the same, the quality of time that they need to study and 5-10 minutes? You can't equate that. You're spending 10-15 minutes on social media, and then you need to actually sit down. Sometimes you have to burn the midnight candle and wait. The teachers, are they motivated to be able to motivate the children? So we need funding. When we look at the budget for the 2024 education, there were questions with, is this a joke? Is this what we are putting into education? We need to fund education. We need to have teachers that are confident, that know their onions. We need to go back and look at even the curriculum itself. Is it aligned with what is needed? There is a misalignment with our curriculum. The children, the students are in school, and they're learning in the classroom, and they can't relate it to every day. So we've had the same curriculum maybe for the past 2, 3, 4 decades. Where will it be reviewed? We need a curriculum for Nigeria that suits what we are doing, what we are learning, our own realities. We keep borrowing curriculums. We have British curriculum, we have American curriculum, we have Canadian curriculum, we have Finnish curriculum, we have Montessori, every other curriculum but the Nigerian curriculum.
So I want to ask on that. When was the last time, because I know there's a whole sort of like conference that has to happen every time Nigeria wants to update its curriculum, you have to have all these different agencies involved. When was the last time we did an update to our curriculum, or we even had this conference call? Because we're in the age of the Internet of Things, the fourth industrial revolution. We are talking about cloud computing, AI technology. How many schools, if they are not private and they're public, are even having these kinds of conversations or putting these kind of things before the students? So when was the last time we had a curriculum conference to talk about updating Nigeria's curriculum?
That is a huge cause for concern. I know that most of the time they're calling educators together, but there's a lot of bottlenecks, a lot of bureaucracy going on. And then when all of these are done, we don't see them being affected. We also are not very intentional about bringing in our Nigerians to sit down and actually analyze this, looking at the needs. Nigeria is very big, so sometimes the needs differ from the different sections of the country and everything. And so being realistic to our own reality, this is our reality, this is what we are going through. And so the curriculum being aligned to it and then being effective. So it's one thing to sit down and put together a very beautiful curriculum, but it's not idealistic. The teachers, the so-called educators are not actually involved. I mean, it's huge cause for concern.
As it is, you've mentioned funding. We've gone back to the basics when we're talking Montessori. We're talking about, because I'm interested in education because I grew up in a very educational atmosphere. My mother was, to the highest level, professor, director of school, and all of that. So we've always been very big on education. I hear you talk about funding and the public and the private, public schools and private schools. Some people say it's better if a child goes through the public school rather than private schools. But now we see that things are different, things are evolving. We've talked about how to come together to conference and make sure that we work with the curriculum that is actually functional for all our children here. Because sometimes you go to schools, they're training children with the British curriculum, Nigerian British curriculum. You've mentioned the Finnish. Listen, the child is confused. A child from the public school cannot attempt, because they're wondering, they didn't teach me this one, I don't know this one. So that culminates all the way to tertiary. Everything happens at the tertiary institutions. Look at JAM, for example. When I heard this, I was worried. I'm like, are you serious? Are you saying that this large percentage of students performed under 200? Even in our time, I had above 200. Of course. Do you understand? I mean, it's not as if we had internet and all those things. So now, what would you say are the systemic issues that affect tertiary education in Nigeria presently? Tertiary education, you know, Nigeria is a very wonderful country. We have the north, south, east, and west. I don't know if it's the same curriculum that we're dealing with in the south that we're dealing with in the north, and in the west, and in the east. So that also, there's also that. But now, let's talk about general tertiary education. What would you say these systemic issues that affect the tertiary is, and how do we address them?
So the nice thing is both the private sector, the public sector, whether you're from the northern part of Nigeria, western or southern part, everybody ends up in the university. So like they say university is the leveler. Everybody is there and everything.
Yeah.
So it's practically the same curriculum in the university. But one of the main issues as well is the curriculum relevant as well to what is needed. We talked about bringing in all the different stakeholders to be involved. Parents, we're still having the issues of parents insisting you have to go for medicine or you have to be a lawyer, enforcing them and not being educated enough to understand that when you are motivated and you're learning from your point of interest, it's different. I believe that most of the issues of cultism and all of that happening in school would reduce if we have students in school that are really interested in what they're doing. That is one thing. Another thing to be conscious of as well is the lecturers. We have brain drain issues in the country. Almost everyone that knows their onions, that are good with what they're doing, have jackpot in the country. That's another issue that we have with our tertiary universities. So most of our professors, our lecturers have jackpot, have left the country. Even the students in waiting, and I use the word in waiting because they're waiting. When is the next opportunity? Something comes up so I can leave as well. So it's almost like they are standing by the train station waiting to jump off the wagon. So I'm only doing this until something comes up. So you find out that there's so many things. I think it's a holistic approach to everything as a country that we really do need to show more interest in the education sector, invest more in the sector.
So my thing is, okay.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. You spoke about university being a leveler, and I don't know, I think it was when the results came out, we spoke about the fact that, let's be honest, not everybody is destined for university.
Absolutely.
And university is not also for everyone. Some people will do better with technical degrees. Some people will do better with just having the basic.
Yes.
But that also means we need to push a conversation about making sure that when students are coming out of secondary school, there is a foundation for whatever decisions they need to make. Are we focusing too much on tertiary? Because when we talk about education, we hear so much about university lecturers, ASU, going on strike. When we even look at the funding for education, a lot of people's minds go towards that funding for tertiary. But making sure that everybody's able to graduate with some level at secondary school could probably serve us more. Are we focusing too much on tertiary and leaving behind the idea that making sure we get everybody through primary, JSS, and leaving secondary with a foundation that the country can build on?
I love that. When I visited Finland, I was very impressed with what they've done. So by the time you're in your junior secondary 3, which is our GSS 3 year, you decide you're going into academics or into vocational.
Yes.
Now, both vocational and academics, you can see through to university level. So you can be a plumber and then have a degree in plumbing. You can have a PhD, master's, and everything. So there's a route to take. So I mean, it's also helping the children to self-actualize. By the time they are in junior secondary, they're no longer babies. They're about 14 years. Then this is what I'm interested in. This is what I would like to do.
Sorry to cut you short. Do you think we have a perception issue? Or you say, my child is going to school to learn plumbing. My child is going to school to be an electrician. Do you think we have those perceptions? How can my child? I don't understand.
We do. That is why we still have the issues of parents pushing you. I had to study law.
My dad had to study law.
Wow. I had to study law too.
Because my dad said it wasn't optional. I wanted to be, maybe I could have been sitting down there. I wanted to be into mass communication. That was what I wanted. I said, you are joking. He was like, oh, then Sherry. Everything. And then I had, you have your first choice, your second, and your third, and everything. And he said, no, you pick law. I said, in case this doesn't, then I can't know. And my junior brother had to be an engineer. It wasn't optional. He couldn't think of, he couldn't choose something else. So yes, we do have the perception issue. But also, I go back to the issue of funding as well. If a lot is invested in education, putting into cognizance, be it tertiary, vocational, and they see the development, the path that has been created for those children in the technical department, in vocational, then they'll be proud to say, look, my child is doing that because they can see how much the government has invested in it. So we've seen it through. We know that if you're going into hairdressing, there's a particular course you need to do. You understand hair textures and all of that. You're given license, exactly.
They do. Serious, it's so bad.
Yeah.
My sister had to call the plumber. She said she went on YouTube and started doing because the plumber and you can drop $500 in one.
Nicely.
Yes. Nicely.
All right, we need to go for a break. When we come back, this conversation will continue, and it is, of course, focused on the disappointing and dismal UTME results that have come out. It sparked a lot of conversation, but what next after those conversations? But even in the dismality, even though I know that's not a word, there were a few lights at this UTME performance. We'll be back after that.
All right, welcome back. Well, before we went on the break, Tolu did say that even though that there was a lot of poor performances, we still had, you know, a few lights at the end of the tunnel. And so we have graphics of the Kwara State governor visiting the school with 35 UTME star performers. I don't know if you can have that up. Okay. So there you have it. And I'm just going to quickly ask, and I wanted to ask this question, so I'm just going to tie it to this. So we have attributed, you know, a lot of these things to the lack of resources and lack of funding for the school. But if we look at it now and what it was before, if we're blaming it on, let's say, distraction, there was still a high level of distraction, you know, before now. So first of all, I'll say, what exactly is what is different now that is making people perform poorly? And then if we have 35 students from one school with an average score of 300 to 355, are we then justified to say that schools are to be blamed for the poor performance of students?
I wouldn't say schools. With WAEC, we could have hidden under West Africa. I say, well, it's not just about Nigeria. But with UTME,
It's only us.
It's exposed us that look, we need to look at. So it's not about schools, it's about the country as well. And when we say 77%, that is huge. If we were maybe 30, 20%, then we could be blaming schools and all of that. But sometimes it means that we need to overhaul the system. Because 77% is huge. I mean, we're saying just 33% over 200.
This school that produced this wonderful performance is where everybody will be going now.
Ilori, Eucharist,
And they will tell you it's not even
Eucharist,
Lagos.
Hearts of
They are
Jesus.
going-
Lagos.
It's not even in Lagos.
Lagos.
355 out of 400, and the top 7 or 8 are guys, are boys. And so people would say probably they're in Ilorin, they're not in Lagos as loud and you know,
exposed.
exactly. So Ilorin is calmer.
But
Maybe
the
they have it
performance
more.
cuts across the
It
country.
cuts across the country. We have a good result at Supreme as well. We have over 50% above 270. So we have a good result, but it's not about just the school.
You know, when we're looking at all these things, some of these things now, because we're looking for how to do better. So what are these strategies that we can employ? Because as an educationist yourself and you deal with children, they are our body minds, they are the future.
Yes,
And if we do not do something to mitigate this problem, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. So what can we say are the strategies we can implement on the part of the school, on the part of the parents, to reduce the negative impacts of some of the distractions these children face? Like my children, I insist they don't have phones until they're 16. And sometimes they just have their phones for the holidays. And when it's school time, they take the phones are taken back. But this thing now is leaking through. And it's not just, we have to start from the government. Because if just like you said, teachers are not well motivated, it will affect school. If the school do not have, you know, good teachers, because that's another problem. Because some schools, because they're trying to cut costs, they get underqualified teachers. And they're the ones teaching the students. And we go to the parents who are giving too much leeway to their children. And I want to go back that, is it that I've heard that grade 8 schools, you can't discipline children. In grade 8 schools, you can beat them, you can punish them. You have to call their parents and say, your son is naughty. What should we do? I know, but it sounds funny. But our children no longer see. I'm wondering where we start naughty corner in Nigeria. And the children learn this thing that consequence for action is naughty corner, just sits and plays with toys.
Naughty corner is event.
In our own time, you stood up. Did you stood up?
Yes.
One finger
And then your hands are shaking.
and you'll be sucking your you'll be bringing out water. But you know, it's funny. But I'm trying to let it cut across from government, trickle down to the students themselves.
Yeah.
So what kind of strategies can we employ on all these grounds that can help us?
Yeah.
Because I know that you as an educationist, you have seen all sorts of things. And now, Nigeria is just beginning to know that children learn at different rates. It's now in this years, this year we still talked about ADHD.
Yeah.
Some people do not even know dyslexia. They don't know that some children, autism, have behavior, they have
issues,
they have issues with learning difficulties. So that's on another level. So where do we begin to find strategies to help?
I think we need to create a lot of awareness first. As a country, even at Supreme, we have parenting seminar every term, compulsory, especially for new parents.
Yeah.
Everyone has to attend because we need to discuss. We need to be. We have something I usually call confused parenting. We want to be Nigerian parents. We want to be an American parent. We want to be a British parent.
We want to be their friend.
We want to be their friend. We want to be their mom and their dad at the same time. So we have those issues there. And I think a lot of awareness, talking about it, and not shying away from the reality would help us address that issue. But I believe as well that vision helps as well. Giving the children vision. Where do you want to be? Because it's like when you're going to the island, when you know that I'm going to Victoria Island, you are able to plan your journey. If you meet a traffic by Maryland and everything, you keep planning, okay, let me take a detour. You know where you're going to. But when you are confused and you don't know where you're going to, then you can be distracted by TikTok. Then you can be distracted by social media. But when they have very clear vision, and that is one of the things we promote at Supreme, have a very clear vision. So we also go out of our way to ensure that every student that comes into the school, we are able to dictate who you are, you know, this is your person, this is what you like to do. And we have a one-to-one with the parents. So all the issues of, I want my child to be able, mommy, we understand, daddy, we understand. But these are the strengths of your children. This is what we should be looking at. We had a student that got admitted into a University of Arts in Atlanta, actually on the spectrum, but very good with photography, very good with arts and all of that, and got a full scholarship based on that. So it's actually being able to detect on time and say, look, this is the strength of this child. Some children are very handy. You know, they're not.
The parents' ID, do they amenable?
Believe me, it's not so easy. You have the parents that tells you immediately, I reject it in Jesus' name. No, that's not my child. The dad was this, the grandfather was that, everyone. But this one is not like that. Children are different. I tell parents, if you have 10 children, you have 10 different personalities. 10. So as the fact that dad was like that or grandma or you are like this does not mean this is good. So a lot of awareness is needed. We need to keep talking about this. We need to go back to even the NCs, the
Teachers College.
We need to go back and look at how are we training them? What kind of teachers are we sending out? And are they equipped enough?
So in terms of the parents now, some parents actually do not have a problem with their kids studying whatever it is, but some parents still need to be reoriented or so I think. Because some people will believe that. I think someone told us that at 16 or something, your brain is still forming. So some parents still take that to the edge and say, look, even if you're 15, you still don't know what you're doing. So they have that parental instinct to want to make decisions for you.
It's okay to push. Yes, I mean, we're not going to say, well, because you like to do this, so let's just sit back. I think this child likes to sing. So yeah,
sing.
keep singing. It's not about that. It's just okay. It's making room for that hidden talent to come out. And then yes, you still further. It's okay. I mean, education is key. You keep going. You know, even if you want to become a footballer, it's okay.
Still have a degree.
Still have a degree. Still keep going to school, but give room for that hidden talent that we've been able to see in your child, and that is just what we are saying. Embrace it.
So before we wrap up, I really want us to understand what we're talking about, or like really emphasize how bad the results were. So there are about 1.9 million candidates who sat for the exam within a 6-day period. Out of that 1.9, 0.4%, not even 1%, scored above 300, while 24% achieved a score of 200 and above. That meant that 1.4 out of that 1.9, representing about 76%, scored below 200. But the thing is, this is a rinse and repeat. We did this last year. We did this the year before. We've been shouting. We'll keep going on and say, oh, the results are bad, the results are bad. But we're literally not doing anything different. And some of the articles you'll see 2024 UTME results and the annual blame game. How are we going to break this cycle? I think that's really the last point we need to make on how do we break it? Because next year, we haven't yet done anything different that's going to give us different results. Next year, we're going to shout again. And next year might even be 70, that'd be 80% that score below 200. We're literally watching a decline, and we're watching the house on fire and doing nothing.
So it seems the government is also not making demands as well. This is some demands from schools, from educators, because sometimes it's a demand and supply thing. I will use the UK as an example. When we have schools failing, when you have Ofsted inspections, it's not just about, well, you didn't do well, we're going to be checking again. There are lots of things that is being put in place to ensure. And if it's continuous, sometimes the schools are shut down. So how are we able to trace that, okay, this is where this is coming from? If we have the old result for the nation, which part of the nation is showing much more decline? Is it Lagos State? Is it Abuja? These are things that we can do. We are treating this issue like there is no way we can get to the bottom of it. But we can get to the bottom of it. Where is this coming? Is the private sector? Is the public sector? Do they need to put more pressure on the private sector? If it's the private sector that is failing, you know, is it the public sector? Do we need to look at our teachers? Do we need to look at the curriculum? Is the curriculum well aligned with examination expectations, with standardized examinations? Because there might be a mismatch, just the same way we have with employment. You know, there is a huge gap between what is being taught in school and the skills demanding.
Absolutely.
So it's looking at all of it. So it means it's really a review of government policies. Really.
I hope because when you started, you said the first thing that when you heard the performance this year, the first thing that came to your mind was your students. I hope they did better. I hope they did better.
What's that result like?
Okay, I wanted to quickly say, I really do hope that beyond visiting schools that, you know, their students perform well, I think we also need to replicate, you know, good habits. It's not just by, oh, you did good, congratulations. Now let's focus on those that are not doing good. Those that did good, what did they do?
So this is where I also would expect the private sector to come in. We see a lot of things. They will sponsor reality TV shows and that. Some of them get into the education space, give something, a school like the one we saw in Kwara, give some kind of prize, help them set up something that encourages schools and encourages students as well in this thing. Because whether you like it, we're still all very focused on degrees.
We are focused on
Yes, very interesting conversation we've had with you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Olubukola Ola Adewuyi, for shedding light on this very important conversation. It was indeed insightful. We'll go on a break now, but when we return, it will be time to hit things up in the studio. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, you're watching Jasiri. Welcome back. The ladies are here. Insightful conversation. We had a fantastic time discussing the recent UTME result. But now it's time for Hot Topics. Our hot topic today takes a look at Lagos State government and the way it has intensified its efforts to demolish structures illegally erected on the water channels and unapproved locations. Now, there's a recent demolition at Mendevera in Maryland. The commissioner, Tokumbo Wahab, claimed that residents were duly warned in advance. Some occupants claim they were only given a 2-hour notice. Who are we to believe? Yemi Alade, Nigerian music artist, has expressed concern over the impact on real estate value and the losses suffered by property owners, questioning why alternative solutions were not explored.
States will go and be breaking walls, breaking houses, rendering people homeless overnight. And it is done serially. It's done back to back. Right now, Maryland, Mende area is on fire. People are sleeping in their houses, waking up the next day homeless. You are ruining the real estate value of the country, ruining the real estate value of Lagos, making people lose trust not only just in the idea of Nigeria, but lose hope entirely in the little coins they've saved to make their life worthwhile, to create some kind of generational wealth. How is this okay? Why? Does it make sense? Why they? Oh my God, multi-million-dollar houses. Look, there is a better way to do things.
What is the better way?
And listen, I understand the frustration. In fact, the pause is very natural. All of us can identify with the pauses. Oh my God. I mean, we get it. Now, who are we to believe? The government says that these people were duly warned. And the residents say, no, it's a lie. 2 hours is only what they gave us.
Where is the documentation? Again, I at this point, right, I think I now blame the approval process of even erecting buildings, right? Because for so many buildings to be up and not have been sanctioned all the while, not have been, would I say destroyed now, or there is somebody that is approving this building, because I don't want to believe that people are seeing that demolitions are being done and still putting themselves at risk of getting their property destroyed.
And people are still getting these approvals done and not even knowing which is illegally.
That's the thing.
I heard the Commissioner Tokumbo Wahab on radio this morning. He was talking about this. One, he says that this particular development has gotten demolition notices served by Lagos State since 2021. So even before Tokumbo Wahab came in, he says that there was a demolition notice put for this particular estate. That's one. He also talked about the fact that, what else did I hear him mention? He said that on this issue, they were giving more notice than 2 hours. Even though I know we have assaults from one of the residents who's affected. I know somebody who's affected as well, and they don't know what to do. I understand Yemi Alade's frustration. I know it's a frustration many people have, but I also, let me tell you clearly, I also understand government. If you look at the topography of Lagos State is a state that has floodplains. It has areas naturally that are supposed to take water from mainland into the lagoon, into the ocean. As a state, there are many estates that have built directly in the path that water is meant to take. Third, I think I'm on my third point now. Third point, you need to go back, I think it's 2022 or 2021, there was a flood that brought a building down in this same area because the area flooded. What was supposed to go into the lagoon could not flow because construction.
Okay, I get you. Everything that you said is legit. Now, my question is, like Blessing said, who are the people approving this? That's number one. Number two, these buildings are being brought down. There are people who will always go back to get approval for whatever it is buildings they want to erect. How are they sure? We've had the topography. Not everybody is technically enough to be involved in that process to know that, okay, no, if you get here, that means, if you build here, that means there's a tendency for this to happen. Some people go there and say, okay, I just want approval to do this. And you give the approval. If you give the approval, why would you give the approval when you know that is on borrowed time? In other words...
So I heard him say that the developer of this particular estate had temporary approval. He was meant to get further approval. He's also said that this, I think it's IGS or EGS, I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but there's a website that anybody in Lagos will have access to that lets you know if a specific area or specific land you're buying, what is the issues with the land. It's available to the general public.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
I'm not holding sway for government.
I know.
But we also need to realize that when you put certain estates in some places, while we're feeling bad for them, let's feel bad for the people who are affected down the line because of flooding.
I get you. I understand. But I also know that we can be emotional as a people. We are sentimental, we're emotional, and we close our ears to what we want to hear and what we don't want to hear. If you say that, okay, you're buying property here because the property is available, is within your, reach. You want to pay for this, or it's in an estate, it's this. And they tell you, for example, you have a demolition notice sent out since 2021. You can decide that, oh, these people are playing, they're not
Because
serious.
we play a lot.
Yeah, they're not serious. And then you close your ears and your eyes to that.
So,
only for this to happen, oh my God.
Like,
they push us out of our
I'm not
homes.
even concerned about the medicine after death, right? Yes, fine. These people do not deserve compensation because they knew what they were doing in the first place. But
They didn't. So we have to sort of separate the real estate developer from the people who buy.
Exactly. So that brings me to my point. There should be agencies responsible for the approval.
Yeah.
There should be agencies responsible for inspecting. Let's even say that they got wrong approval. Since 2000 and what? Since when the building was erected, not one person inspected and said, this thing shouldn't be here. Take it down, or we take it down.
And but the thing is, that's what we say. Half of the time when we confuse ourselves about notices, in law, there are different notices and length of time.
And different times, and then
that
different
you
things
give.
on top of
it's
each
just
other.
that the only thing that they are failing is because nobody has taken an action before. So everybody has been sitting pretty on illegality. You cannot build legality on illegality.
Okay, we give you exact same thing that Tokumbo Wahab said today. Because the presenter asked him about compensation, and he said, "Compensate who? You're illegally occupying land. We're not going to compensate you on illegality."
The people, so when the buildings were erected, why didn't Lagos come and say, like, this is it? Oh yeah, what are you doing?
They won't have known.
Because after some years, this is after so many years. People have lived there for years.
Thankfully, I heard him say that there's a blame that Lagos State needs to take. The fact that they did not stop these things when they were developing, waiting for people to settle in and live in these places for years. And that is a fault that the government has to carry. Once you see, so that means, do you have enough people going around?
How long we've known
people going around for monitoring before we get to this situation?
But
before we end up boxing ourselves.
At least with all this happening, everybody now knows that Lagos is not going to be joking any longer.
At all.
So if you're living in any environment, do you know that there are some places that are valleys there? So when rains come, the waters.
Oh, so that means all the property towards that Mushin side, say,
But please, let's...
Anyway, this is where we draw the curtain to a close on today's episode of Just Say It. Nobody hold your horns. Hold yourselves.
My horn.
I want to say a very big thank you to Mrs. Olubukola Oladewoye, CEO, Supreme Education Foundation, for sharing insights on the education system in Nigeria. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Join us tomorrow for another exciting and fearless conversation. Until then, nobody box anybody.
No, that means on the mainland.
That thing you're talking about, I don't. So the government actually gave two compromises.
But there's wait now. There was a setback of 140.